Go around the room and introduce ourselves, and then we can kind of keep this kind of loosey-goosey and go through some stuff. And we're going to show you some of the new product here in a few minutes. So I'm Tim Thomas. I'm the sales manager for Qware. I've been with the company now, I think, going on 14 years.
I'm Eric Quinn. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at the CNS Companies, which is the parent company of Qware. I'm also the General Manager of Qware now, so been there a long time.
More than 14 years.
More than 40.
Mara Luther, I work at BOCES, Madison Area BOCES, and I'm Senior Admin Assistant.
Erin Tucker, Morrisville School District, the high school, just main office.
I'm Rana Jackson. I'm from Herkimer BOCES. I work in the operations and planning department.
And I'm Brenda Eggleston, MORIC.
Minnesota.
Chrissy Palmer, Minnesota.
I kind of figured that. I'm trying to forget, where did Rich go? Did he go to the hospital?
He retired. Well, he retired, but he works like just for a local hardware store. Now, he may have, maybe he was doing something at Hamilton or even at Morrisville College.
Okay, I thought he went to a hospital. That's why
I think I heard him, he was just moving. I think he said he is now like part-time at one spot, and it's just a
okay, all right, yeah, I'll go there. Okay, so, and then, I'm sorry. Ryan, he's sitting right next to me, Ryan.
You want to introduce me? Or should
No, go ahead, introduce yourself, right, that's okay.
I'm Ryan, I'm with Qware. So I do pretty much a little bit of everything, marketing, sales, development, so I'm kind of all over the place. Good to be here.
And in the back there?
Chris Peters, I'm the support manager with Qware.
So I guess before we get started, I always like to make sure that we say thank you for your business, because I know a lot of vendors these days take the time to do that. They're so eager to get your business sometimes, they kind of forget that, schools have choices. So, I know Chris and I, like I said, we've been here the longest, and we've been fortunate to have, I think we're up to 215 schools down the state. And we sell to other markets too, but again, we just want to take the time to make sure we appreciate your business and thank you for continuing to use the application. As you got the agenda in front of you, so I'm not going to bore you with reading all that information, but I'd like to kick things off with Eric's going to talk about some technology improvements that are either currently in the product or are coming, and give you a chance to ask some questions about that, and then we'll just kind of transition through each of the segments here. And like I say, being a small group, throw things out there. I mean, we're not going to wait till the end. If you've got questions, we can. We've got a couple hours, a little less than a couple hours. I don't think we use the whole time, but if you guys want to use the whole time, we're more than happy to stick around. So, after you.
Thanks, Tim. Well, I'm going to get into just a couple of the most recent enhancements to our current product. Today we're going to be talking about two products. One is the current product, which you will hear us refer to as 2.0. That's the release, the version 2 release. The new product that we have that we're bringing to market, we've been working on for a couple of years. 3 of Qware. We aren't sure how we're going to brand them yet differently, but we will do that so that you guys will know exactly what we have and where we're going. I want to talk a little bit about what we have currently and what we've put into version 2 recently. And the first thing you'll notice is on the sign-in page, you have the option for signing in with Google. If anybody has a school district that is doing Google authentications, you guys are doing Google, you use the Google apps, okay. So now we have the option of doing single sign-on with Google, with the Google authentication. One of the questions that we got yesterday was, okay, we've been using LDAP, and is there a cost to signing in with Google? What we're trying to do is get people to use Google or to use Active Directory Federated Services to be able to tie in with Azure Active Directory. We aren't going to charge for that. We have to charge with LDAP because there's a compute component with that. But we're looking to really deprecate LDAP. If you're using LDAP for single sign-on for your users, we don't really want to hold on to a whole list of usernames and passwords. We'd rather use the SAML technology, which just passes a token from your system to ours and authenticates the person, versus having a whole sign-on, a group of usernames and passwords in our system that are the same as what's at the school. So Google is one. We are in the process. We are just about ready to roll out Active Directory Federated Services through Azure Active Directory. Anybody using Azure Active Directory in the cloud, O365, Office 365, Microsoft? If not, that's fine, but we're making that available. But This is a real improvement when it comes to security, because we're looking at all the stuff that's coming down the road, right? New York State just passed the SHIELD Act, which did a number of things. It is holding us more responsible. It also expanded the definition of personally identifiable information. Right? It used to be that there was usernames and social security numbers and things like that, but now that goes to cell phone numbers and email addresses associated with a name or an address. So there's more to it, and so we're trying to get more secure. That's why we want to deprecate LDAP and eventually get rid of that and move to a SAML single sign-on system, either through Google authentication or Active Directory federated services. We are in the process right now of moving our entire infrastructure into Azure. And the reason that we're doing that is so that we can provide better performance for everybody and better security for everybody. One of the things that Azure does for us, the Microsoft Cloud Infrastructure, is it allows us to scale as needed, right? So currently, our stuff is hosted either within the BOCES or it's hosted with some of our servers that are co-located in Rochester, New York. But what we want to do is get to Azure so that if something happens and there gets to be a performance issue, it will scale out automatically. We don't even have to touch it. If we get to the point where the compute on the PC or the memory is approaching 50% or 70% or whatever we put in there for the cutoff, it will automatically scale out and give everybody better performance. And that's something that we're really excited about, is moving everybody into the Azure infrastructure. It also allows us to have better security. Azure is compliant with NIST, the security protocol, also with GDPR. You guys don't care about that because you're not in Europe, but it's something that everybody's thinking about as laws get passed in New York State and in California, and those laws basically make their way throughout the country. So that's some of the stuff. We also have, along with the Google authentication, we've allowed now, or we've created a way to export events out into a Google Calendar and have it sync with a Google Calendar. So if your school is using Google Calendars, that's kind of a nice deal as well, where the current product will be able to connect to the Google Calendar. So are there any questions about where we are with security, sign-ins, some of the stuff that we've put in recently?
Are those things we can turn on ourselves, or do we have to coordinate that with you or Brenda?
For now, coordinate that with us for getting Google. That should be, we would have to update. I thought that would be there, but just coordinate with us. We'll get you set up with it. Yeah. But it's a pretty painless process.
This is all available now?
This is all available now. The Azure Active Directory, the ADFS, the Federation, that is in the process. I think we are going live with that this weekend. I got to talk to our developer who's been working through that and testing that and see where we are. But the Google is available now, yes. We have a couple school districts that are using that. All right.
I'm going to bring Chris up. So this next segment, it always turns out to be the most, I think, valuable for people attending, because it's really a chance to kind of pick Chris's brain. He's, like I say, he's been with us for, he's got to sit down here and be along it. He's been with us the longest. He knows the current version inside and out. I know he works a lot with Brenda. Obviously, there are issues that do come up, maybe that Brenda's not 100% sure about. But and speaking of Brenda, I don't want to forget. I always give her a shout out, because she's the reason we've been successful in this area with the schools. I forget how many schools we're up to now, Brenda.
I think 26.
Yeah, out of 50, so about half. Everybody that I talk to loves working with Brenda. She's very responsive. She's a great extension for us, because in this business, if everything else is the same, you got to make it up on support, and that's what she does. So I know she supports a lot of products, a lot of applications. But like I say, she's a large part due to our success. So anyways, I'll turn it over to Chris. We've got some things we thought we'd share with you, but again, this is a chance to talk about anything. Don't necessarily feel we got to stick to the script here. This can turn into kind of a real interactive session. So I'll shut up and let you go.
Who here uses the new event module?
We have lots of them here.
Oh, good. Nice. Most of you. Again, like Tim said, these are just some things that we came up with beforehand. We'll start there and go wherever this conversation takes us. When you have an event, what a lot of people don't know about really is creating work orders from events. Any of you doing that piece? You are. Good. Cool. So what that means really, bottom line, is we might have an event on our calendar that's 6 months out. And we want to get a work order from that event to tell us, it's time to set up for that event, whatever the case might be. So let the event module talk to the work order module, kind of like the PM module does, and automatically create a work order for us. So when an event is in the approved status, like you saw me title this sort of just blank form 2, then this predate work order piece shows up. And when we check that box, then we have this little feature down here that pops up and says there's a lot of service areas, but what service area do you want to generate the work order in? How many days prior to that event taking place do we want that work order generated? So it reminds us a few days before, perhaps. And even who do we want to assign that work order to? So it's really simple. I mean, it's literally as hard as doing that. But it might be some help to you. You're using it over here. What kind of stuff do you use it for?
Every event.
Every event.
Yeah, the thing I was hoping to see was to have it automatically kick when the approval came through. Because it's hard to remember to go back after I have so many events being booked.
We kind of got some of that same feedback yesterday, actually.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I've been
you do
saying-
it on every single one?
Almost,
Okay.
almost.
So,
So it's really hard to remember to go back.
sure. Okay. That's good feedback.
So
Let's
having
get
a
right here,
trigger at-
capturing stuff.
Trying to
So-
see what's, how.
So having a trigger at new
So this
would
one,
be beneficial.
Right, so at approval, it'll kick the work order out. You can put the request in at new event.
Right.
At
Yep.
approval, it would kick it out.
That's exactly what we heard yesterday.
Yep, pretty much. So you're not alone.
I didn't figure it was.
Are you guys, I'm sorry, I missed the introductions a little bit. You're from the same district? Okay, cool. All right, well, we'll have to check out your site and see how you're using that, because that's cool that you're using it for that many events. I know it might be a little bit of a struggle, but at least you're using it, knew about it and using it. So that's cool. So yeah, when that happens, when the time comes, it generates the work order, just like the PM module does automatically. And there was some discrepancy yesterday in the room about which colors go with which ones. Apparently, that's dependent. This is news to me, which is bad, I think. Not really good reflection on me, but in this site, it's a brownish color, so that's what that is, the event-related work orders that have kicked out. And when you click on those, it'll show you pretty much everything that was in the event comes over to the work order, basically. So, yeah, all the custom field information, the event date, which you can, of course, sort on that, which I think, I don't know if you've ever done that.
Brenda reminds me every time I call her.
Well, as Tim said, she's a good extension of us. So yeah, you can sort on that date when you have that for the event work orders. So, do you do anything with the time that you spend on those? Do you
The work orders, after they've been initiated, aren't
You don't-
anything that
you
I
don't see
really,
them?
no,
Gotcha.
the maintenance guys just chew on me
Okay.
because the description doesn't come, what is in the equipment needs doesn't come through on the actual,
Email notification.
right.
on the email?
Email notification is lacking. It's, you can put several things into the event, which is the work order,
Mhm.
but the email notification just kind of says new event on
We
X
can
day. It
we can
doesn't really
manipulate that.
say much.
Okay.
So I think because it goes out to several people.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
So the notification could say, this is just include all the detail of the work order.
If some of the places don't even tell you, you might see 3 tables, they don't know where it's supposed to go.
Sure.
On that
Sure.
notification. And obviously, there's a training level that they should be going into the work order or into the event, and they
Right.
can see it, but they don't have
But when they're, they're
Sure.
out,
I
these
understand.
are maintenance guys, they pull up on their phone, they're not gonna log in
He-
to open the.
He pulls it up on his phone.
This is at the approved,
Okay,
the
one
approved
does.
status? At the approved status? Or new? Probably
When
approved,
there's a
but you
work
can't
order
predate
tied,
work
so you're talking
order.
about the work order tied to the event, yes?
Yeah,
When there's
they-
a notification that, I can pull one up.
Maybe when it gets assigned to them, or when it gets generated, that sends
Yeah, so
an
when you
email.
say 7 days tied to whatever event, days hits, you get an email that says new event, or not new event, it says,
Yeah, email's a tricky thing, because a lot of people rely on it to tell them everything, and sometimes it doesn't. Usually, for us, it was kind of viewed initially as, okay, heads up, there's something out there waiting for you, and the idea was they go into the system and retrieve it, but I hear what you're saying.
which
you
is,
know.
I get it,
Yeah.
but these guys are, again, they're working off of this
No.
primarily,
Yeah,
and they're not.
I get it.
We'll
this
see
is
what's
what-
coming in the next version, it'll make you much happier.
This is what Brenda just came up with. Brenda, this is what we just did with the new event. So they're getting the notification because I was cracking up. I couldn't remember to go back in.
Except now I get like
We
So
created
she
check
helped me.
boxes.
30 of these a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Right.
created
That's
check
also
boxes.
not
They're
helpful.
getting blown up at
because
1:05
I'm
a.m.
not gonna look through 30 of them.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
So it's almost defeating the purpose. I thought I was being helpful, but at the same time, they're like, what are you doing to me? I had 4 people come in after we set
Right.
it up. Why am I
Right.
getting so many emails?
Yeah,
Right.
it's a lot.
Gotcha.
It's a lot.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
That is
Well-
nothing.
Sounds like you've worked through a few things with Brenda.
Oh, yeah.
Quite a bit.
And make it a little better, but maybe not perfect yet. Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. Any questions from anybody else about how that works? Maybe helpful?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Would it be helpful to have like a time component on that pre-date?
I know I'm having the
When
same
you
issue
copy?
with email thing at my school with my catering and my maintenance.
They get so many, they just aren't even looking.
Yeah, they're getting, I hear you, getting yelled at.
One of the biggest things for us too that comes across is if an event gets canceled, there's no notification.
Yeah, that's my thing. It's a hit or miss. Like, we have catering, so
Okay.
my cafeteria manager, when we go in and we cancel an event and we check all the boxes to make sure these notifications are getting sent out. Sometimes she's getting them and sometimes she's not. So she's going and she's making this big catering and it's canceled on our calendar. If you hover over the event, you can see that it's been canceled, but like everybody else, she doesn't log into it. She does everything off her phone. And she doesn't have time to log in and hover over an event every day. She prints out her reports monthly ahead of time. So that one report that I worked with, you want to make sure that it says true under an event canceled is great when she remembers to utilize it.
Right.
And she's like, well, I don't understand why I just don't get emails.
Well, she can get an email on the event canceled.
Yeah, and that's, she's getting some of them, but not all of them. So I don't really know what's going on with it. Why she gets some and why she doesn't get the others. I don't know.
Okay.
Too bad
Well-
there wasn't a way to make the event like red, like the whole event red on the calendar, like a visual, can we do color?
Probably, yeah.
So when she just looks at the calendar, she can just look for colors.
Yeah, I know right now if somebody cancels an event, the way we're doing it, maybe we're not supposed to do it this way, is if somebody cancels an event, it stays, there's no color bar. And then if somebody books that same room, it comes up with a conflict. And then that's where the red bar is.
Right.
And so that confuses my maintenance because if we leave our canceled events on the calendar so that, and save whatever correspondence they wanted to cancel that, so
Sure.
we have some background on
Trail.
it. And then if somebody comes in and something's been canceled, the secretaries in the main office can see that it was canceled and let them know, whereas if it's not on there at all, they don't know.
Right.
But then it confuses maintenance as far as setups go because they're looking at 2 red bars and thinking that they're both canceled. So I don't know if maybe we could do something as far as color coding to change that, because then it doesn't mean it just says there's a conflict. And they don't, it confuses them and then they're
So one color for canceled and one color for a conflict.
Yeah,
Okay.
if we could do something like that. Would be helpful on my end, but I don't know.
Okay. Definitely look at that. and work with Brenda on that too, so that she doesn't feel like we're leaving us.
You're fine.
Okay. It opens up Pandora's box when we talk about events, we know that. But really, again, some of these other things may or may not even apply to you. So anything else on events? I mean, you kind of went someplace else. Anything else? While you've got us in the room, a question. Brenda does a really good job, so I don't feel like she's steering you astray, but anything while you've got us in the room.
Multiple location.
Oh, I was waiting to say, well, I don't know if you're gonna address things, I don't wanna jump ahead. 'Cause,
No, it's fine. Again, small group here, so.
You go
we
with
can-
multiple events, but
Not
I wasn't
multiple
there.
events, multiple locations for one
locations.
event.
Yeah.
So
Having
at
it
one
appear
event,
once on the
boys'
calendar.
bathroom, girls' bathroom, auditorium,
Oh, yeah.
cafeteria, changing room. It's very
can't
messy
do
on the calendar, and then if that gets changed, like,
You have to
no,
go
we don't
in
need that
each
cafeteria, we need that
individual place
cafeteria.
to change it.
It just
Impossible.
creates a domino effect.
So
of not
basically, you would only want to get,
I want one event, I want to go check, 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 check.
Right.
And then I want to be able to say, if I want to move that event, I just want it to move, and I want it to show as one event on the calendar, not 7 bars that just, again, it's like the emails, it just becomes like.
And still be able
too much.
to generate a conflict if you end up trying to book the space for
Correct.
any one of those
Any one of
locations.
those
that
seven
go back.
places.
Right, just needs to be cleaner. I think
We-
it
we
becomes
have-
clunky when it's.
Yeah, and we have a lot of requesters that have different times of the days. We have, for example, I have drama that uses it Monday through Friday, 6 o'clock at night till 9 o'clock at night, but they're there Saturday morning. So when I first started doing this, I was going in and I was creating one event for the Monday through Friday, one for the Saturday, and I thought, this is stupid, so I did it for all of them. But then I have to go back in and change every Saturday time, because the majority are the Monday through Friday. If I could go in and say, on Mondays, I need it from this time to this time, and reoccurrence, it just seems like there could be a big encompassing way to do this. Like he said, you could say, I need these rooms for this event, and it's gonna run on these days at this time. So you can alter the days all in one facet. And yesterday, for example, we have a weekly meeting that goes on, and he asked me to change it.
So most events have a primary location and then have other locations associated with them for the most part? Is that fair to say? Like,
I don't know, with the multiple locations, it's all pretty.
Yeah, but like if you were describing it, I think what you're asking, you're describing it in real world terms, not Qware terms.
not Qware, I'm talking, if someone's signing up for an event, they say, what I
The
need
event is in the auditorium, but we
Yeah.
also need 4 other spaces for that
So
event.
maybe that's something that we look at is creating, what is the primary space? And then everything on the calendar is associated with that primary space, which could be changed if needed. But the other would be secondary or associated spaces.
It doesn't need to show.
So that you don't need to show those on the calendar necessarily. That way you wouldn't get the 480.
Yeah.
You don't need to know that
things
we
on
need the
calendar.
bathrooms while we put on the flag.
Right.
But you'd still want them to show as a conflict, the sub-locations as conflicts if
Well,
somebody.
for notification for our cleaners, for the custodial staff, that yes, we are
Right.
using all 4 of the bathrooms, not just 2.
I've gotten to not even, I pick one spot and then I type in the description of where the other places are because I don't want to see that on the calendar like 500 times.
Sure.
Five.
Do you find that you ever end up with a conflict?
Not usually. I mean, like, it sounds like you guys use your calendar for tons of stuff. Like we do, it's mostly outside events, some bigger events that are like in-house and stuff that happen like throughout the day. It's like minimal that like I can look on there and just be like, okay, it's fine. Like, I think we don't utilize
Well, you're the
it.
master calendar
It's
owner
huge.
there anyway, so all events go through you.
Yeah. So, that's not usually a problem, but.
Right.
So we could kind of go in a direction like that, have a primary event location and then associated locations.
Support spaces or something.
And we might even want to consider, I'm talking with my team here about development, we might even want to consider that we could say specific rooms create a conflict or don't, right? Because the bathroom is probably person's going to need it, you're going to want that information for the cleaning crew, but there might be 2 events going on that's using the same bathrooms, and you don't want to lock out a bathroom and say this one's associated with this and not this, so.
So I just allow the confidence, knowing that.
Right, so we might, from the development team, we might want to look at that and say, okay, the primary location, we have associated locations, and we have some of those associated locations, we could say no conflict. You can't, it wouldn't create a conflict with someone else if that's checked, or if the room is assigned that way. Thank you, that's good feedback, thank you.
I think it's interesting that you keep your canceled events on the calendar.
We do that because I'm not in the front, so everybody comes through one point of entry for it. So if something's been canceled and it's not on the calendar, like we use our calendar for everything. So if it's canceled and it's not on there and nobody notifies them, which happens a lot, I hate to say it at my school, especially with last minute PDs and stuff, and they have no idea. And they'll have these move it, and then it wouldn't be so confusing for my maintenance because they won't see 2 red bars, even though there's color, it's still going to show as a conflict. So,
So maybe something off to the
cancel it.
side of the calendar that says canceled events.
And then have an option where it doesn't conflict if somebody else, if I book, a room today and I cancel it tomorrow and somebody else goes ahead and books that same room tomorrow, it still shows as a conflict. Is there a way to remove that conflict?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
No, I do.
Does your maintenance team need to see the conflicts on the calendar at all?
They do see it and it confuses them.
Right, if we just said if it's canceled, like you can see it, and the administrative staff can see it, but the techs won't see it. They'll only see things that are scheduled and need attention, right?
Yeah, all they need to see is things that are approved.
Right. That could be, user group setting, that could be established.
Okay.
Certain people can see canceled, other people can't.
It always amazes me the permutations with events. That's why I called it the Pandora's box. Because, just from essentially 3 or 4 districts here, you're getting different ways you're using it. So, that's why as much feedback as we can get is good.
Is there a display to view canceled events on the view calendar? I can't remember.
Well, really, most times people will delete them and then they go away.
Yeah, that's another thing too.
Yeah, and they
go back and see what you actually did.
Right, which is why I think you're doing it the way you're doing it, because you want them, you want a record of it.
Exactly.
Was supposed to happen, but for whatever reason was canceled. So I don't think we have a robust enough cancel feature that accomplishes probably what you probably all wanted to do.
So we would treat it, for lack of a better term, we would treat canceled as archived events, right?
Yeah.
We say, okay, here's a list of canceled, like you said, here's a list off on the side. I can click on it, I can see all the details of what was canceled, but it's not on the main calendar.
Right.
So there's a number of options there.
Sure.
But that's not available right now, right?
No.
Okay.
No, we're kind of.
Others missing something.
So
No, other than the workaround that they're using. What district are you in?
Herkimer Boses.
Herkimer Boses, that's what you said that.
So from the developer world, from the application world, developing a calendar that has processes associated with it is one of the most difficult things to do, especially with something that's in place. Because as we've heard, everybody has a different method, everybody has a different system for approvals, for cancellations, for how to deal with multiple locations with one event, how to deal with the outside world, right? John Q. Public wants to use the auditorium for whatever, whether it's the Boy Scouts or the local preschool or something like that. And so we're really digging in. We understand that the events module is a very difficult module for a lot of people to function with because of limited functionality on our side. But we want to make it better. And as we show you the new solution, we're starting from scratch when it comes to events. We're taking all of the information that people are giving to us, and we're saying, how do we make an events calendar work so that everybody can have and customize it the way they want it? Because it's not easy. People have done good events. We really appreciate those people because it's not an easy task to try to fit everybody. Certainly, everybody doesn't fit in the same mold, because even the approval process, the chain of events that goes through an approval process is very different for everybody. So we're taking all of the notes that you're saying right now and going, okay, because we literally have been meeting about our new product in the events module, the events application in our new product. And we're saying this is important. Everybody, schools revolve around events, whether it's athletic events, social events, community events, special events, just within the school itself during the school day. We have to figure this out. So we appreciate all the feedback. Sure.
Anything else? Event related? Not that that's the last chance you'll get. So if you think of something later, that's fine. Anybody here using the work order system to assign to outside contractors? Brenda, do you have anybody that you can think of? Just so you're all aware, we do have customers, quite a few of them actually, that will create user accounts. I mean, this isn't rocket science, honestly. They'll create a whole other user group for vendors, contractors, put in, ABC Electric, the elevator company, things like that, and make them a user in here with an email address and assign work orders that need to go to outside contractors right here in Qware. There's different levels of what people are doing with that. They might just do it for their own record keeping, to say, I know I sent this to this contractor. Some are putting in a real email address for that company, a tech or a person in the office. It sends them an email when the work order gets assigned to them, so you could do that. And some are going so far as they are now a user account. They have an email address, they have a login, letting those contractors actually get into their site, log in, retrieve the work orders that are assigned to them, no different than your maintenance staff or tech staff, and completing the work orders at some point. And Tim actually brought up a good point yesterday. In some of those examples, they're actually attaching an invoice to the work order. Okay, we've done the work, we came out and did whatever you needed us to do, the mechanical work. Here's our invoice, and attach that right to the work order as they complete it. So it's not really rocket science at all, because it's just adding users to a list and taking advantage of what you already do. But it's just something that we see people doing and kind of getting the word out, basically, is all that's all about. Any thoughts? Does anybody here even work in the work order module? Are you all event people?
Well, I do a little bit, because I work directly with the maintenance guys. But let's swing back around, because you said invoice. Let's go back to event.
Okay. That word triggered something.
Is there upcoming that we're going to be able to invoice off an event?
That is something that we've talked a lot about. So if you don't mind, I have to ask a question back to you. When you say create an invoice from an event, how deep do you need that invoice to go? Do you just need us to generate a piece of paper that gets sent off to the person who rented the facility? Or does it need to tie back into your financial system and grab a number from the invoice list, right? Because you've got 1,081 invoices already this school year.
It would be way too many components to tie it back into the finance system. But to be able to have it read the duration of the event, because what we're leaning towards is going to a per hour charge. So if it can say, okay, they used this space on this many days for this many hours, and creating an invoice.
We use it for transportation too, so we need to invoice for transportation. So a piece of paper is sufficient.
They can
Pulling information from Qware.
So this is something that people have wanted to talk about. We've tried to process what it means, because every time I ask that question, there's a different answer. Well, I don't need it to tie back to our primary financial system, but it has to tie into our invoicing system or our PO system or something like that. And some people just say, I just need a piece of paper that's basically a bill that I'm going to send to somebody. So we need to know that information, because I know that we can create and do invoicing if it stays at the very simple level. Tying into other systems is a little more difficult, and trying to pull that information in It's difficult in this application, but as we talk about the new application that we're developing, those types of things get a little easier because we are going to be able to communicate with other solutions that are out there, all kinds of solutions. We'll talk about that in a few minutes.
I have a couple of questions. Would you guys charge for anything more than like an hourly rate and stuff like transportation? Like if they needed IT set up or something for that space, would you charge for that? Like if they need a projector, they need tables or chairs or anything set up? Or is that just kind of included in their hourly?
There are two different things, I think. You know more about the hourly thing. Transportation
I don't know anything about transportation.
I think, I'm just using memory, I'm not certain about this, but I think she invoices for the driver, so the rate for the driver would be 1, and then mileage would be like 2. I think of the 2 components of the invoice for that.
Are you using the event module for transportation, or are you using?
No, the work order module.
Work order module.
Yeah,
Okay.
because we do field trip requests
Got it.
through that
Yep.
module.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, so are you invoicing internally or is this external?
Both. Oh, no.
Both.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
sometimes it goes to
The clubs.
the club.
And then
or
you got
the-
celebration.
But then sometimes there's people outside, it's a little bit of both. So that's why just a piece of paper that we can give to.
Just some basic information.
Would you want like
Yes.
that driver to be able to have a space to put in how many miles they drove and stuff
The
like that?
trans director would do
The
it.
director.
Yeah, so they give them the report and then they plug it in and then click a button, invoice.
Okay.
Would be nice.
Would you guys
Time
want?
to that event, or.
It pulls it as that information on the invoice so you know.
Correct, right.
I heard you.
Again, there's a lot of components to it, right? Because you start talking mileage, one of the things that we're starting to see that we'll be considering when we talk about invoicing is mileage these days. We can say, here's the address of the school, use Google Maps to go out and find out where the final destination was and just multiply by 2, right? And use that as the mileage. And it's kind of a close enough number to get you where you want to go. But again, it's one of those things that is, everybody has a different idea of what should be invoiced, how it should be invoiced. And Qware does a pretty good job of creating custom fields and allowing customization. But all of that has to be thought about before we create an invoicing system. So who's going to put the hours in? Who's going to put the miles in? Because maybe we can pull it directly from something, but if someone says I have an all-day event, well, it's not really an all-day event. It goes from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. It's not really 24 hours, so we would have to figure out that type of stuff. So, great thoughts. Certainly, that's the direction we're going because we have enough people who want it and need it. But getting an understanding of exactly what that means to different people is something that we're on the path to find.
So the technology and all of that you were asking about,
Yeah.
that's they want to just make it simple. So we're going to encompass all that in hours.
Okay.
If somebody were to need an immense amount of tables, we don't have them, so we have to use a vendor. If we were to do that, we would just either have them do that directly with that vendor,
Yeah.
or if we did say that we would help them, we would bill them like attach it.
Yeah,
The invent
maybe there could be like
invoice.
some way just to add like extra costs that are standard.
Yeah,
Maybe you
maybe
kind of like just
miscellaneous.
input something.
Yeah.
Would you want like standard, would you want to be able to like kind of customize your own invoice template?
Yes.
And use that? Okay, so it's something that district could probably.
That was quick.
Take some time to think about that.
I mean, that's something we gotta consider. I mean, we could have just, this is the form, like the Qware invoice form, and then everyone uses that, or we can, have a way for you guys to customize, put your logo, put your address, stuff like that.
We can customize that.
Right.
Yes.
And then would you want that to like just automatically go out, or do you want to like click a button like, okay, send invoice now?
I'd want to click it, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
If it could pull from whatever was input into Qware and then could be adjusted. So
Okay.
like,
Right.
if the event didn't quite go 8 hours,
Right.
it was
Or if it
7.
went longer.
Or if it went longer, or if you
Yeah.
call another person or whatever, it should be modifiable.
Yeah.
if That's the word.
Give you that
Before you click
that
send.
period where you can make the changes to it. Okay,
Yeah.
that's all I got.
See, that's all. It's that simple.
Libby, we have more dialogue about events than any of the other applications we have. It's a bear.
Anybody here use the PM calendar?
Our maintenance guys do.
Yeah.
So I
But
can't
you don't
speak
know
too
much
much.
about.
I know he does the boiler checks and
Yeah.
that, so.
Yeah, I think in your district before John left,
Yes.
we did the equipment inventory. So that should be
Yes.
still, hopefully still fairly accurate, I hope.
Is it?
Well, that part of it is, yeah. We use the inventory
Asset.
module, the asset, fixed asset.
Right, yeah, I should qualify. So in
part.
in the system, there's an inventory for facilities equipment. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what we did that
Yeah.
maybe 4 or 5 years ago, or just before John left, I think.
Yep.
I'm not gonna spend any time talking about the PM calendar if nobody in this room uses it, so that's fine. What about the favorites? Brenda, do you have any districts in this area that use the location favorites?
Not that I'm aware of, and if it is, it's very easy to manipulate.
Sure. Yeah, just so you're aware, you know, when users are using, again, this is kind of centered on the work order piece of the system, but any user has that access to that My Account page and can go to this favorites tab. And even if you're using the work order module, put in work orders to your maintenance department, you could do this for yourself and say, you know, I'm in a specific building, you know, I don't know what we have in here. I'm in the high school on the first floor in the library. All that does is when you go to the create work order form, it pre-fills those locations. So if I'm a teacher in a room and I'm always asking for work in that room, you can do that for themselves and have that automatically pre-filled. It's not rocket science again, but it's just one of those things that not everybody knows. We have some districts that we talked to yesterday that are very intensive about keeping that up to date, and Mrs. Smith moves and they make sure they move her and all this kind of stuff, but doesn't sound like you're getting a lot of that over this way, Brenda. So, again, we just came up with a handful of things. That's really all I had.
What's the My Documents button you just had?
What's that?
What was the My Documents?
Great question. So I'm a user. My document shows you any documents that you've attached to work orders as you're creating them. So I like how these conversations sometimes spider web. So custom fields can be added to work orders, no different than they're added to events. You know, the form down there, you can attach something to it. It's a picture, it's a document, whatever it might be. As you go through that process, actually it's for all of the modules, as you go through that process, you might attach a document, a PDF, a diagram, whatever it is, to an event, to a work order. The system has to upload that to the server so that everybody can access it, but it also ties it to your account. So what this screen does is lets you see all the documents that you've ever uploaded to work orders or events or whatever the case may be. So what kind of came out of one of our conversations yesterday is there's a lot of document features that people don't know, including on locations. So like if you had, what were the examples we were giving yesterday?
Oh, floor plans.
Emergency exit plans.
Where's the exit plan?
A roof warranty or anything, honestly.
Well, we talked about safety plan, so if there's a specific thing that needs to be done before entering a space, so if you have an enclosed space or a high space, in order to comply with all OSHA stuff, you can put a safety plan that's associated with a location.
Key lists. We got master keys, change keys, all those kinds of different keys. Because this is location centric, I think that's where this started. Didn't it, Chris? We had a client that wanted people to see keys for one building and out the other, and that's how we came up with it.
There's been a few things that kind of...
Yeah, but I mean, that's another great way to just, to list your keys, on a document, obviously.
So just because, the only reason I bring it up is because you saw documents and it sort of lit your eyes up a little bit.
I've just said to him, I don't think I've ever even seen documents on.
That's why I'm going there, basically, because there's really kind of a document library that exists in here that you may not even know is here and available. In this case, it happens to be applying to locations where you can come over here and upload whatever you want to upload right to a building, to a floor, right down to a room. So if you had, specific documents that you needed to have a place to get to, I guess, for whatever reason, any of the ones we've given or others, you can use this for that. That's really the whole gist of that.
So to maybe tie this back in, will documents remain if an event has been canceled?
Yes, nothing happens to those.
So if I were to have an event that had a flyer saying, you can come to our show or whatever, and I uploaded the flyer, that's a way for me to track history, thinking of you.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Yep.
It is, it's a roundabout way to track history.
Yeah.
Well, there's no other way to go back. Who made that event?
Take whatever you can get,
Talking about
right?
that.
Yeah, I hear you.
Of your insurance forms.
Right.
Of your tax
Oh my God.
Your events now, but you can.
All I have is hard copies in my file cabinet. I
Oh,
don't know anything
no.
about this.
I can create a
Really?
custom field that says document upload, or send me an email and I'll do
Okay,
that.
all right.
What about you?
Because I would use that a
Yeah,
lot.
I attached liability.
Yeah, so if you were to go to your My Account page, go to Documents, I think you'd see a pretty significant list of things listed there.
Yeah, I use it's up at the top where that
The location.
even, it's like right up in.
Here? Or
No,
here?
yes. It's document.
Oh, you put your
Document
documents up there.
management.
And then select document or system documents, that's how I do it, I guess.
Well, like here's location documents. This is just another way to sort of get to the same place where all the documents are in one place. So this is every custom field document that was ever attached,
Like, that's where I just upload the liability forms in there. That's
Okay.
where mine are listed. But then if I have them, like if a new one comes in, I just, upload it from my desktop and stick it in the actual event.
Gotcha. Okay. There's lots of ways to do some of this stuff, so it is interesting to hear. Because, every now and then we'll go into sites and I'll look around. A lot of times that's because somebody has called and said they need something, so a lot of times I don't get a chance to look over your shoulder and see this is how you're using it. So Brenda probably does that a little more than I'm able to.
Of course. Absolutely, I do.
Spend all night just sitting home baking and checking out what they're doing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of my portion here. Again, I'm not going anywhere, so if other questions come up as we keep moving, we can do
Is there
that.
anything else you guys, relative to this version that, you always kind of wondered about, or does it do this, or maybe areas of concern or problems with the updating outside of events that,
So other than Google, is there anything else that's available right now that,
Within, like I said, within either this weekend or within the next couple of weeks, we will have Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, be able to connect. Is that what you're talking about, or are you talking about?
New features. in this
Oh,
version.
new features?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what we've been working through.
Nothing immediate.
Oh, you know what came up to someone, I forget off the top of my head who asked for this, but is there a way to trigger a notification if, for example, a work order or an event, well, I guess it's more so a work order is over so many days? It's like a reminder, like, hey, you haven't touched this in 6 days, 7 days,
like the tickler?
something to that effect
With an email.
with an email.
Not right now, no.
But maybe for the next
The
week.
the aged and escalated will do that.
Yes.
You have to click on those.
Right. They're just talking about an email all in general.
auto
Yeah.
notification?
And
I've heard that a
then,
few times.
yeah, and then if it gets another 2 weeks past, all right, here's another trigger of an email.
Well, Google does that now. I know I get a little nudge that says you haven't touched this in a few days. So now that you're Google, would that be able to tie into it?
Also, since it's a Gmail function, it's not.
That's a Gmail function.
Just try it out.
Sorry.
Good question.
Sounded good to me.
But that's,
I don't have to make it do it, though. All right, well, What do we got next? Tim?
Yeah, we're ready.
Tim and Ryan?
Tim and Ryan show. You want to log in there, Ryan?
I have it already set up.
They had to switch computers.
Well, we have to switch computers, so you know the URL, Ryan?
Hey, Ted,
Yes, ma'am.
we gotta use a computer.
Oh, no, he's using,
This is the one.
yeah.
Oh,
I
He was gonna use his, and we said, no, you gotta use the.
Oh, okay, I looked at Derek, I was like,
No, we shut my laptop down and plugged it in there.
gotcha, okay, just wanna make sure.
Here.
Sorry, okay.
Okay, so,
You know, you want to use your login or?
yeah, why don't you use my login just because it. Okay, so, I'm actually going to sit. There's a smaller group here.
These little uppercase.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't make sense. So,
Password is nice. What's your password?
yeah, lowercase.
That's here it came.
Just put it. You know your password.
Regarding something we felt earlier, he says I can't believe I just made Siri read all of it.
It is uppercase. One more try.
This is Qware UI demo, that's what you're on, right?
Oh, no, this is not my demo.
I thought you were using that.
Well, another was beautiful for him. Yeah, well, my boyfriend's a flag football coach.
Oh.
So he and his son were walking and I'm trying to snap pictures and then we just
Yeah.
caught up with them at the fire.
Yeah.
This is text.
It was, I said I don't think,
Go back.
the last time I attended one was back when I was in
Yeah,
school,
school.
27 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's when we did floats and stuff.
Yeah, I wish they got back to that.
It should
You know, when
because
we
the
have
kids,
that
yeah, the kids work
between
together,
that
they get it
and-
done, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I was telling Catholic girls as a kid.
I'm looking at this quicker than I can
Before I
see.
went to school, it wasn't a thing for me or not. We just didn't. We didn't really have like a.
Took too many hats. Got rid of the L. Look at the one next to
You can see
you.
it better than mine.
Got one right there.
Once they graduated from high school, and they're like,
We'll get there.
By the time they get to high school, they're like, I'm further down.
Delete.
For those of us that
It's so
don't,
great.
Yeah.
I mean, the kids love that.
Yeah, that's- Now those are
didn't do
working.
floats last time?
Okay, so,
You're specific.
yes, this is one that Steve built for us, for myself and Julia. So the next version, as Eric mentioned, version 3.0, and we're giving a little kind of peek look at it right now.
I would.
And
Backspace, backspace, backspace.
a lot of the,
Oh, Tim, stop.
oh, here, I'm sorry.
Stop what you're doing.
Okay, I'm moving.
Look at that screen if you
I've
have
seen
it.
like that. I don't know if I can call it slow.
Okay, all right. I don't know that's So this version, I'm gonna let Ryan do a little bit of the driving here. You do all the driving. So this version 3.0 has been in development for a couple of years now. We're actually getting very close to releasing it. And a lot of the stuff that we were talking about today and a lot of the stuff that is coming on people's wish list is either is in the product now or is going to be in the product very shortly. So what we wanted to do is kind of start with a baseline with the current version, version 2, make sure that everything in that version, has the same functionality and the same features in the current version, and kind of build from there. So right now what we've got done is we've got work order done, assets done, all the system management features, some reporting, custom field capabilities, things of that nature. So, and even PM scheduling is just about done here. Now, matter of fact, speaking of that, now, I know you guys are more, I guess, concerned with events and whatnot, but we've changed some terminology a little bit, where in the current program, the current version, we use the term regular for day-to-day work orders. In the future, we're going to be calling them corrective, which is a little more, I guess, definitive of what they are. And like for your facility folks, the PM work orders that they're getting now out of the current version, we're going to be calling them scheduled work orders. That's really what they are, is these are scheduled work orders. The other big change I think you guys at Canastota use the fixed asset module, right?
We do it both
Yeah,
as
both,
well.
okay. So the fixed asset module, as you know it, is going to go away, but we're replacing it with another asset database, essentially. There's actually going to be some cost savings there because we're going to give you the asset program with the new product. Matter of fact, since I'm talking about that, why don't you jump into the asset list. So, again, a lot of the same attributes you'll find in the new asset system. Now, this is, again, just a look of, kind of the list screen of assets, but you'll notice the second one from the bottom, actually the last two items actually are not facilities-related stuff. They're computers, laptops, whatever the case may be. So what you may be asking yourself, well, they're all mixed together now, so how am I going to tell the difference? The key trigger is which department you assign that asset to. All right, so boiler would go to maintenance, laptop would go to IT. So when you put those in the system, that's one of your first activities to do that. And then obviously you can see that we have a lot of the same demographic information. Why don't you just click on that air handler, Ryan, since I know that's got some good data behind it. So again, like the current system, I know some of you guys are dealing with the fixed asset module, not to confuse you, but in the current product, there is another asset database for facilities. So there's always been this fixed asset module and then the database for facilities equipment. And I remember 4 or 5 years ago, I was discussing, why we didn't merge them then. Well, we merged them now because it just became a little too problematic to keep having two different databases that effectively did the same thing. So again, you're going to have the ability to put in all your demographic information. There's a little picture slot across the top, and I've only got one image in there right now, but like the current version, you can put in multiple images. If Ryan scrolls down a little bit, locations. We're treating locations a little differently too. Now they look, kind of like a tree, like it does in the system now. But if you notice, we've got some icons now here. You've got this little thing that looks like a stairs, and then these doors to kind of indicate rooms. So the system is still very location centric. But again, just the way we handle it is going to be a little different. And we'll come back to this when we actually go and create a work order. I think it'll make more sense. Ryan clicks on the additional information tab. Again, in the current program, any place you see those two words, additional information, means custom fields. And in the same process here, you can see in this example, I put in some custom fields, horsepower size, CFM. You have that same capability for IT stuff, whatever you might need there, if it's operating system or whatever the case may be. And what we're also doing with custom fields is we're doing templates now. So when you create a template, it's transportable. In other words, you can use that template in other areas of the system, where now you're kind of creating unique custom fields for unique areas. And again, we'll show you, I think Ryan will show you that template here in a minute. We also give you the ability to organize the custom fields in the new version, where in the current version, when Chris or Brendan puts them in, they kind of just go where they're going to go with no real sense of order. So in the new version, there's a little more capability to kind of organize things. And then the last thing here is, again, just the ability to upload documents and images, which the current product has had for some time. Again, what we didn't want to do is take anything away in the new product. And I think, like Eric mentioned earlier, this is all done in an Azure environment. I've always said that the current version, the reason we're going to this version is there's multiple reasons, but I've always described it as, right now our developers kind of have handcuffs on them with the current version. There's only so much we can do. It's kind of, you're throwing good money after older code. With the new version, we have the ability to just expand things like the APIs, and we'll show you the mobile feature in a minute, which is full mobile feature in the current version. That's a significant change from what we have now. So again, the fixed asset module will effectively, it will go away, and then we merge all those assets into the new system. Obviously, you won't see any assets you're not supposed to see. You're not going to sort through the list, because again, they're assigned to a department, or what we call a service area. Let's go back and just take a look at the basic work order form, just to kind of give you a look at what that looks like. Somebody said yesterday that they thought this was even cleaner than the current version, as far as the actual work order form itself, which I was glad to hear, because that's what I've been harping on these guys since day one. We've got to keep it clean, we've got to keep it easy. So this is what the new work order form looks like. You kind of step through, 3 or 4 steps here. Again, you'll have all the capabilities to do rights and privileges with people. If they're not supposed to see something or see a building, they won't see it. Same concept, we have users, we have requesters. But again, service area, like you do now, they can select a service area. Excuse me. The priority thing, we can actually disable that because you don't want requesters telling you the priority is. In some of our markets, they want that there, but that's why you can turn it on or off. So basically, they go through that left-hand side. They put in their description on the right-hand side. Because obviously the required fields are highlighted with a little star. And until you highlight until you fill those fields out, that next will then go red when you've satisfied those fields. When you hit next, this is where we get into locations. I mentioned we're going to come back to this. So again, what we've done in our demo slide here is just shrunk this down, so we're just dealing with this one company called Albright Insurance, but it could be a school building, what have you. What you have to do here is you actually have to select now the room or area that this work order is for. Again, not unlike you do now, it's just a couple steps later in the process than it currently is in the version you're using. And again, like as I mentioned, we can hide locations for people here too. Once they satisfy that, then you hit next again.
Show that.
What if, say I don't know the location of something and I only know the tag number, could I research the tag number and say, okay, here's the item that I want to be moved?
Yes.
Will that then pre-fill where so say the tag number has all that information, will that pre-fill all that?
It won't pre-fill it, but you can, I'm going to turn to Ryan, you can search on an asset.
You're talking about assets, right?
Yeah.
Like some kind of thing, not a location.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If the asset, yes. So
There's a couple different, this is like a new kind of way of handling the selection for locations and assets, right? There's a couple things here. You can look at, if you do know location, you can throw assets into this location structure and you can see, where they live, essentially make your selections that way. Or we have basically just a table of your assets where they're different counts for serial number, tag name. You can use the search to filter that down, and then you can even filter by categories. And that makes it easier for selection too. If you want to select a whole category, like if I want to just do all generators for like a PM schedule, I could filter that down and just hit like a select all and just include all of them. But yeah, you can search by like the tag.
Are you dealing with facilities assets or IT type assets?
Facility.
So, okay. So
208.
But her role is significantly different than most people's role. She's got a lot of responsibility as far as asset locations, moving, accessing that, and all that stuff. So you're moving IT type assets?
No.
Like facility assets will typically.
it's not about moving, it's about being able to select them, figuring out how to get them, and that's what Ryan is doing, is showing you that
okay.
you can create a work order by location, and you can show the assets that are in a specific location, or you can take a look at a list of your assets and go to the search feature, or you can filter. So there's a couple ways to find what you need to work on.
So you say move.
So if you don't know the location, yeah.
Correct.
If you don't know a specific location, but you have a tag number or you have a description, you can go into assets and search and find it, right?
Does that make sense?
And then you can make, let's say you have a couple you want to search for, right? You can search for one, like this one here. I can make my selection. I can go back. Still keeps it selected. I can look for another one, AT 200. Okay, I can select that one. Search for another one, and just get to it easier just by using the search.
You have this capability in the current version now, and it's somewhat similar to this, but this is just a little more enhanced, I guess is the best way to put it. A little bit more easier to find things.
So does this talk to the fixed assets module also?
Yeah. So this is, I'm glad you asked that question. So in this version here, we're dumping all of the assets essentially to the same database. If I can speak on this. And then what you're doing is you're assigning those assets to departments. Okay, so IT assets might be assigned to obviously IT, facilities might be assigned to facilities. So that's how we're kind of they're sharing the same home, they're just, they're tagged differently depending which departments they're in.
If you don't have access to the categories, so there's service areas and then asset categories are assigned to service area. So if there's an asset that's assigned a category that's in a service area you don't have access to, you wouldn't see it, right? So if your service area is IT, you would see all those assets, you can make those selections. If you don't, then you wouldn't be able to see those.
Well, that's what we're
Kind of making
doing.
that separate.
Oh, see, messing.
Oh, that's not right. Okay, so you work with Todd?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So we inventory all his assets and we're all in there.
Mhm.
So you're only going to see what is assigned to you in your department? So
Right.
you won't see all the IT stuff if you're not IT.
Right.
Well,
But-
I'll have all the departments. So like if I need that chair moved,
Yeah.
like what our problem is right now is I have to go in there twice. So I have to create a work order and say, I want that chair moved someplace. And then also I have to go into the fixed assets
Oh,
side.
that's why I was kind of hoping we said
Yeah.
moving things. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is, yes. So you're using the work order function as the mechanism to physically move the item.
Yeah.
And you do it in the database.
Um,
and change the
Update the
location.
asset.
Yeah, update the
Ah.
asset, yeah.
Yeah.
So she was hoping by generating that work order, just like inventory, when we complete an inventory work order
Yeah.
and it subtracts it from there the minute we close it, she's saying the same thing. We've moved
Okay.
that table, updated that work order to complete it, and now it updates the asset's location.
So I think to answer your question, I think we haven't thought about linking the two together.
We haven't, but we could put something in a custom field that would say relocation. This is a relocation work order. You take the asset that it's associated with, and if you click the box that says relocation, what's the new location that this is going to be in? We probably, I don't see where that'd be a problem, but that's something that we could put in. I don't think we had
When you
thought
said
about
move,
that.
I remember that years ago when I worked in manufacturing, when we had a form, a work order, that if Joe Scientist wanted this mass spectrometer moved from room A in building B to room 20 in building C, the document did the physical move, and then we had to take a carbon copy of that, go into the system and update the new location. That's exactly
Right.
what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
But linking it right now, this version, I mean, that's like Eric said, probably not a big stretch to do that out of the box, though this is not going to link those two together, unfortunately. So you still have to, that second step, I guess, is the best way to put it. Does that make sense to you?
I think there's a larger feature that can encompass a lot of these different kind of specific needs, to satisfy these kind of specific needs of setting up customized workflows for things. Where you can say, if I check this box, right, the workflow would be when it's closed, when the status gets turned to closed, take all the assets assigned to that work order and move them to this location or something.
Right, right.
And you could set up these different workflows that just kind of handle that stuff. And you can turn on or off, disable and enable and stuff like
In
that.
a perfect world, an RFID functionality would update this for us. They didn't have to do it. Not in a perfect world, so. But like I said, the assets are handled very similar to what you're used to. You're just not going to have a fixed asset module per se.
And while you're selecting, you can bring up the details if you want to. So this is an edit as well for like technicians that get these work orders. They can pull up the asset details on them, including all documentation. So here's a manual for this asset and all the custom fields and standard fields for it. So they'll have access to that right from the work order section.
Click on that, and they do it again, right? You can close out that.
Do what?
Close that. Okay, so that's a little differently, but that idea was, I don't think we've ever thought about that, but like Eric said, we're not able to solve that fairly easily. So the next step really is just this work order we're doing is the custom fields that you're all used to. So again, we haven't done anything away with those. Matter of fact, if you looked at behind the curtain here, we probably see that there's a template name associated with these custom fields. So it could be template A or Tim's template. And then those are portable. Same thing, as in the current product, we can make them required fields. Brian hits the next button. Then the last step here is really any uploads you may want to do, whatever you have to attach to the work order. So then you submit the request, and again, like the current system does, there's a whole mechanism behind the scenes, routing, approvals, so again, we're not going to lose any functionality there. This is what the work order list looks like. Again, not all that different from what you're seeing now, except we moved some things around to make it a little more, I guess, easy to navigate. One of them is, some filtering options. I actually created one here. Brian goes under, sorry, I scroll down. I created one, work orders assigned to Chris Peters. And when it does, it filters on that, obviously, and returns the work orders that are assigned to Chris. Now, the current version, you kind of have to go into the find the work order feature, and it's still there on the main screen, but it's not like right in your face. So we try to put that on here to make it a little more easier to navigate. There's a search function right here. Brian goes in and clears this filter. And you can start searching on any kind of work. So again, just trying to put things in a more logical place so you're not moving. As it is now, you guys know, with the current version, you're not navigating 5, 6 different screens to get to where you want to anyways, but we try to even make that simpler by putting more functionality on the screen.
Well, what Tim was talking about here is you can save filters as custom user views. So it's kind of like reports now, where you can save reports from the work order list. You can save different views and just toggle between them. So in this view that he already has here, you can go in and edit it. So these are the filter criteria that's set for that view. You can delete it, update it, and save it. You can manage your own personal views for different things if you want.
One thing I forgot to mention is that there will be a self-import feature for assets. So you can import your own assets at some limited facilities or IT. So that jump in the back may not have maybe out of that one part of the job you want to do anymore at some point. I know from MORIC, but you've got like tens of thousands of assets in there. Yeah. So there will be a self-import feature that you'll be able to use to use on that. As long as we're here, why don't let's adjust the screen and show them what the mobile feature looks like. So as I mentioned earlier, this is like an emulator. This is what the mobile feature looks like. So any device you're on, you have full functionality across the board. So you can see as Ryan kind of expands and closes this, as he gets closer to a smartphone size, things start to reorganize a little bit, but it's this is probably one of the coolest features. This is using responsive technology. It's not an app, so if you're disconnected, then you come back and it's not going to update, but this is a huge leap from what we have now from a mobile or a smartphone perspective. And again, there's that full functionality across the board on how this works.
So do you have an option to just use your phone and say you want to attach a picture to it? Just go to that? Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
What about like scanning tags? Okay.
Yeah, and actually that's not, I'm glad you mentioned that also, because as I said, in the current application, the current version, could we do it? Yeah. It's going to be more complicated, more costly. This whole new application or environment just makes those kinds of things order of magnitude or 3 or 4 easier to do. So, I sometimes give this example. If it takes us a half a day in the current version to do something, it might take us 5 days in the old version. It's just that order of magnitude, because it just opens up so many more things for us to do, and that's why we really kind of had to get out of that environment and get into something where we can just as I mentioned, we sell I just got an email this morning. We picked up a small regional bank in North Carolina. I mean, there's markets all over the country, and they're pushing us to do more. And this K-12 market is fairly cookie cutter, but you get some other markets, and we have to start doing some other things without clogging the product up with a lot of stuff. I mean, that's why a lot of you guys like it, because it's not full of everything you can think of. Let's go to charts for a minute, Ryan.
You want to do like comments and stuff?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Let's talk about comments. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's a couple things here, some nuances. I didn't talk about these in other sections, but we put the person's email in these too. So if you want to quickly email the requester of that, you can just click on that, open up your email thing. You can send them an email if you want to. You can print work orders too. So if you guys still want to print out things, take whatever's in that work order, put it in a nice printable interface for you. And then comments. Really, the only thing we added here is it's more like a chat feature versus like just a box where you just type in different things for your comments. And then you can hide certain, well, it's not, you can't do it from this one, but you can hide comments from the requester. So you can have that option to type in something as a comment, but the requester won't be able to see it. So it might be something that's like an internal conversation maybe between the technicians and the administrators. Mostly related to the work that needs to be done, not the status of that work or whatever that the requester might need to know. So there's that option to have kind of internal team conversations that the requester isn't a part of.
That's probably something we've heard over and over and over again the last couple of years is public comments can be risky because you get somebody to put something in there that is a little bit derogatory in nature. So the private comment feature, this should be a huge help.
The bigger thing would be to allow technicians to have a conversation without request, right? Hey, we don't have enough parts on hand in order to get this done. Okay, what's the date that we can get the parts in? Well, I got to talk to the vendor. The vendor's on vacation. So you're having this conversation in the background, and the requester doesn't necessarily need to hear all that. And so the idea is it's not to mask a conversation. It's to take away some of the noise that people would have to sit through if we didn't have that.
Because I'm the requester of this, trying to add a comment, I don't have that option. If I was in somebody else's work order, like as an admin that created it, like a teacher or something, then I would have that option.
And as long as we're here, this section of the screen here, this kind of that guys that told me they refer to this as like a drawer. So what we put here, in addition to the comments, excuse me, is hours, labor hours. I'm sure you're all familiar with the current version where you can add labor hours. Again, still there, a little different spot. And the other thing that's under that down arrow, Brian goes back to it, is the audit log for the work order. And again, this is in the current version. There's a tab where you can look to see all the different changes that have been made. We've had a couple times over the last few years where that audit log has come into play with some not so nice happenings in schools. So it's people forget. I had a guy call me a couple years ago, a manufacturing company. He said, my guys are going in and backdating the work order dates. In other words, they're manipulating the system to try to make it look like they're doing better than they are. And I said, well, did you go to the audit log? He said, what's the audit log? And I showed him the audit log, and it showed where Joel Bag of Donuts went in there and changed the completion date from today's date to 5 days ago. He said, thank you very much, and he hung up. But again,
Can we have that in events, please?
I don't know if it's Chris, is there any kind of an audit log with events?
No, that came up yesterday, actually.
Yeah.
Well, it will be in 2 or 3. Every interface is going to have an audit log. Every record will have its own log.
Jump over to reports and charts. So, again, reporting functions. Excuse me. Just go to charts first, if you don't mind. So this doesn't currently exist in the version you're using, this charts feature. This was added, and Brian just wants to create a quick bar graph on the different statuses of work orders. You can do that, and boom, there you go. So you can just imagine, a lot of the other data that you could create on your own. The large driver by doing this was, in the current version, you can get this data in a spreadsheet and export it out and do your graphs. We wanted to try to give you more capability and more options inside the application, and so this whole charting function is brand new, and I think a lot of people are going to like this because, again, you're not having to take the extra steps to get the data and go outside the system.
You can add as many charts as you want to each report. If you filter down your table to a subset of data, it'll update all your charts for you to reference that new subset of data. You can save reports. Saving a report will save your chart information and your filters and search criteria for that report. You give it a title. You can select any standard fields or custom fields to include in your chart. All your custom fields and standard fields can be used for charting. And you can export to PDF, which would include your charts and the table data. And you can print, which would include your charts and the table data.
We also have rolling dates, so you can pick a
Right.
set of dates, or you can say this month, this week,
Right.
last 7 days.
We can say, yeah, create date, and you give it a sliding date of this month. So every time you run this report, that's gonna automatically calculate the start and end dates that are equal to the month you're currently in. Do you know what I mean? It just keeps rolling. And every time you run it, it'll update that range for you. So right now, it's just doing from the beginning of this month till the current date. It's gonna give you all those work orders. And if you run it next month, it'll give you 11/1 to whatever day it is. Right?
Go over to the,
So like the next one.
a little off topic, I'm just curious, how many of you guys still print hard copy work orders to get your?
There's your
Canvas.
report.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
How many people, I'm just curious how many folks here
We
actually print hard copy work orders for their guys?
We do. Well, no, actually, we just changed that. Now they all have iPads.
Good. We were a little shocked yesterday, not shocked, number of districts, they were still doing hard copy paper.
Couple, I don't know if you can do this in 2.0, you can rearrange your columns now too, if you want. So your report, you know, you can rearrange how the data is laid out if you want. And then
What about adding columns?
Yeah,
Add.
yep. Right here, you can, this just has every column available. It's standard and custom fields. So, yeah. I think we're gonna update this to say like yes, no versus true, false at some point. Yep.
Or office move, please update the assets.
Yeah. And then right now we have work orders and assets. So if you want to reference asset data and run reports on assets versus work orders, you can do that too. And all the same rules apply. But you'll get asset columns to pick, you know, charts related to asset data and stuff like that.
So speaking of, well, not charts, but flip over to the calendar. So right now, and again, not allowed to get here, too interested in this, but in the current version, we have a PM calendar for all the PMs. Right? Yeah, I'm sure you guys use that. It kicks out. Todd use the PM calendar? Yes. Okay, so what we did here is still give you a PM or a calendar to show your preventive or scheduled maintenance, as we call it now. But now regular work orders or day-to-day work orders will show up on the calendar too. So this is something that I know I've had people ask me about this for a couple, 3 years here is why can't we see our daily work orders or our corrective work orders on a calendar? So we've given you that feature here to see both types. Again, this is really more geared towards, I think, probably the maintenance side of things. Because, usually the same mechanic is doing a PM that might go in and change a valve in a light bulb. So, they're doing both types of work and having that on here. Really, probably more for the director of facility just to kind of see what the month looks like. Obviously, it could change every hour because you're getting new work orders coming in. They're going to go on corrective work orders. I've been saying regular work orders and PMs for 14 years, so it's going to change. But, and again, we've given you some different ways to view it, day, week. I like the agenda. You click on the agenda, whatever. Just again, just different ways to view it. So,
Same thing. You can click
I don't think for most people, this is going to be too difficult to kind of get their arms around. It's the same basic functionality, but there are just some other features, and we'll continue to add features. We have development meetings every week where we talk about other things we keep putting in here. We don't want to be everything to everybody because then your product tends to get a little too gobbed up. But
And a couple other things here. The calendar view, these are essentially, you can do the same things in the advanced filters. You can pare down this calendar by the type of work order or whatever. But we got this here just to do it, you can do it quickly. I can see just corrected, look at just scheduled ones. And the color is the difference. So the orange is the corrective, the blue is the scheduled. And the little bar on the side here lets you know what status it's in. So if you have color-coded statuses, that would show up here. So one of these blue ones are in the new status. That's just kind of whatever your district prefers for marking them. What else was there? We would put the events in here as well. So if you only had access to events, that's all you would see on this calendar. If you have access to work orders and events, you'd be able to select which calendar view you want to look at. So if you want to look at just events, you'd be able to go in here and just do all events or there'd be a separate section. So this is the work order section, there'd be a separate one for events, and all the quick views for that section, or those entities.
Are you able to break down work orders from events as well as just work orders generated?
Right, yeah. There'd be another probably option.
Another color and
Well, there's
Event-
also the
event
advanced
work orders.
filters. So
Yeah, you can do it from
Run
advanced.
through quickly what the advanced filters looks like. Because we haven't done, search, obviously we'll search whatever the content is and requesters' names and things like that, but we have filters that we can go through as well.
And this is the same throughout the app, so these are going to be work order related. So you can do like, just give me all the work orders in my calendar that are from a specific location, which you can pick your location here. Just do like this or that, and it'll filter it down by that. Do it by create date, the due date, priority. Give me all the ones in my calendar that are specific priority. Apparently that's not working. There's a bug. Due dates, that's another thing too. You can choose to have due dates on your scheduled work orders. So you get to give the technician a time of, to work on things, you know what I mean?
It's always been a very data-rich system. I think, again, what Ryan's going through this is just trying to put the power of it, in a much more logical place, much more easy to accessible place. So you're not having to go and create custom reports and then export that information. So it's, before I turn things back over to Eric, he's going to talk about a couple of other applications we're working on and what the migration picture looks like. Just real quick, just kind of from the sales side. So there's a couple of services that we offer. I know some of you guys are taking advantage of them. We still do the data collections for facilities where you come in, inventory your boilers and unit ventilators and all that kind of good stuff. That's still aidable through the BOCES. If you are a BOCES, then it's obviously it's not aidable, but we work out something for that. And then we also have another service where we get inventory IT equipment. We partner with a company out of Rochester that comes in and you set the threshold, the criteria. They come in, they'll inventory all your IT related. We've even expanded to include furniture sometimes, depending on what somebody wants. They can even apply asset tags, block out old asset tags, things like that. I think we did that for Watertown. Maybe 5 tags. The key is the dollar threshold. If we give you a price and you say everything $500 and above, if you say $100 and above, then the price starts to go like this because of the number of assets. But I just wanted to throw that out there because I know we got into that business a few years ago, and a lot of districts have taken advantage of it. More so the data collection for facilities and the IT stuff. Then a lot of IT people have a pretty good handle on their assets. But every now and again, somebody comes up and says, I need to get these re-inventoried, and I want to get it done with a set period of time. So, with that, I guess I'll turn it back over to Eric to talk about the other 2 applications that are in progress and the migration.
Sure. You want to do custom fields at all?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Real quick, just if you run through custom fields quick. Yeah, just because it's done a little differently. Brenda, this might be of interest to you too, because I didn't set up. And by the way, with this, you'll have the ability to create your own custom fields where now Brenda has to do it. That's another big change.
All right. I'll just run through it quick, just the high level approach to it. So these are all the fields that have been created. So the name of the field, the type of field it is. I think there's Booleans, input, file upload, single select, multi-select, date, bunch of different, pretty much all different types of fields you want. And then you have different layouts, which you apply those fields to, and then you apply the layouts to different entities throughout the application that you want those fields to show up on. So I can go into one example here. This is one that would be used for all your HVAC assets, and it would most likely be assigned to the HVAC asset category. So any asset in that category would be shown these custom fields. So these are all the ones that have been created. You can just drag and drop them where you want them to show up in the form. So it's a 2-column layout here. And you can stack them on left if you want, stack them on right. They don't have to be balanced. It's however you want them to display, essentially. This preview option lets you see what that'll look like in the form. That's essentially what we just created here.
I think right now you put the custom fields in, Brenda, and you have to log out and then just hope that it went in the right spot, right?
No, then I have to, depending on how I want them laid out, I have to manipulate
Yeah.
fields.
This fixes a lot of that.
Right. I think right now it goes left, right, left, right, left, right, kind of like that. So you gotta arrange them so it fits nicely. With this, you just have free range, just drag and drop wherever you want them to show up. And then we have some new settings related to each field. I'll go through a couple of those. You can make any field required that you want. You can give it a default value. You can create field dependencies with custom fields. You can say, only show this field if this other field has a value. You know what I mean? So maybe it's like, do you need chairs?
Yeah.
You know, check this box. Okay, and then how many chairs do you need? Or, you know what I mean? Or if you need catering, okay, where do you want the catering to come from? Something like that. So it just keeps it clean. Instead of having all these fields on here, you can kind of create related, you know, dependencies with fields.
Well, that dependency thing is big, because I know some other markets, you know, when you get the service industries, they really, I think that events is a great application for it, though.
Right. And right now, we just have it limited to, does it have a value or not? Not like a specific value, but that might be something we expand out as we get feedback, you know what I mean? And then any field can have an email sent. If it, you know, send an email when this field has a value, doesn't have a value. You can create specific user groups to send that email to. You give it the subject and the body, and then you can also include injectable merge fields into the text of subject and body too. So you include like the asset category, asset location, and it'll put that in there related to the asset that you're working on. Same thing with work orders too. You'll have work order data to put into these emails. Wow.
That was one of the things that you guys talked about, is the emails are insufficient in our current version. It says, go in and look, is basically what the email says. What we're doing here is giving you basically the ability to drag and drop and say, here's the location, here's the issue, the subject, or the description of something. So this isn't just a drag and drop for custom field. We have the same thing for work orders and communications. Being able to customize your communication and drop in certain fields so that there's more information going out.
I actually have a question when you're done, not related to this particular instance though.
Okay.
Sure.
Round it out here.
Unless you want to ask the question.
Well, it's more so about user groups. So say, for example, I have a group of 5 administrators, but one of those folks out of that group needs access to this, that, the other thing. Currently, I have to replicate all those privileges, make a new user group, pull that person out, and then make sure that person's attached to all the admin things and also the new stuff. Is there going to be a different way to do that? An easier way?
At this point, we had not thought of a different way, but there are ways that we could stack privileges, right? So if you are in this group and this group, you get the culmination of all of those privileges. So there's a possibility of doing that, but we haven't built that in at this point.
Just food for thought then.
I can't remember if I believe we were going to have a feature where we have it down to be able to copy user groups. So you would take all the settings for that group and just make a copy. You can transfer that person over to that new one and then just make subtle adjustments to it. You know, if it's just like one privilege you don't want them to have.
But that still creates another entire
it's a whole user group, right?
Versus being able to just assign a privilege.
So then you look
So they're
at,
part of a user group, but they have one extra privilege.
and when you look at Joe Admin, you'll see, oh, Joe Admin belongs to administrators, but also this user group as well.
Yeah. So we'll look at that. Right now, we don't have that, but that's something to consider. Stacking privileges or individual privilege assignment. We can look at that.
Yeah, the only thing that is by user right now is the service area and the locations. And I think that's the same with 2.0.
That's what I was saying.
Same with 2.0, right? Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is what our new product's looking like. We currently are in the process of giving our new product to new customers, which we only have a few of that are on here, who are very simple. Only have work order and assets, because that's what we have at this point built out that we are comfortable putting out there. We're in the process of building 2 more. Preventative maintenance is coming soon. We're just about done with that. But then after that, we have inventory, which for us, inventory is consumable, right? It's consumable stuff, whether it's printer, toner, or it's toilet paper, or whatever. If you're, is anybody using our inventory now within Qware, our current version? No? It's pretty simple, basically. Got a few.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're just tracking what you have on the shelf somewhere and when you need to reorder stuff. So we're building that out, and of course events is up. But as we said, events is difficult, so we've had a number of discussions about what events need to look like and what functionality needs to be put in. So like I said, right now, new customers who are asking for the most basic of Qware.
Well, Belleville Henderson's going right on 3.0.
What's that?
Belleville Henderson, they're going to 3.0.
Okay, yeah. So they're only asking for work order and assets. Basically, we're going from what was 5 modules down to 4, because we used to split out, say, assets was a module, work order was a module, PM was a module, inventory was a module, and events was a module. Well, it's very hard to do work order without assets, right? That's the whole point, is to take care of your assets. So those are going into the core. They're being combined. If you get one, you get the other. And then the other 3 are out there, the preventative maintenance, the inventory, and the events. So that's what's coming. Now, as far as the timeline, I'm not giving any dates because we aren't going to be moving people. We've had a number of requests for people to be moved, but we want to be sure that we have all the functionality built into the new system that's in our current system, so that we aren't moving people and go, well, you can't do this and you can't do that. We know you used to be able to do that. That's not what we want to do. We want to give people the same functionality, although it might be a different method of doing it. And so our plan is to get to the point where we have everything in our new version that we have in our current version, and then to start migrating customers over. And if you have a simpler setup, we probably will be able to migrate you sooner. So if you have a more complex setup with lots of custom fields and you have all of the modules, that's going to take a little while. I expect that we'll start migrating some customers in the middle of 2020. I don't expect all of our customers to be migrated over for a few years to come, because everybody likes what they have and change is difficult. We want people to have the new stuff, the best stuff, but we also understand that getting people to learn and to be able to educate people in the new process is also difficult. So we are pushing people off of our current version. We are excited when people say they like what they see and they want to move, but we got to be sure that all the functionality is there before we do that. A couple things about this. Tim mentioned the mobile aspect. That's one of the big things that we pushed for, is let's make this so people can fire it up on a phone, because that's the way people live these days. That's how people communicate. The communication aspect, we're able to do a lot more with this. We're looking at text messages versus emails, right? We want to have that capability so that someone can get a text message about something. But also integration with other systems. Right? We talked about the possibility of integration with a financial system, but that's not really big on our timeline. We don't necessarily want to tie in with that type of system, because it kind of puts us in a new place when it comes to security. But we do want to tie in with things like if you use Schedule Galaxy for athletic events, right? So every school has something where you schedule your athletic events. We want to be able to tie into those systems, because that's a work order or that's an event that we need to know about. We want to tie into other systems as well. We have talked for years about tying into the actual building systems, right? The electrical system, the HVAC system, so that there's an event, it understands that the heat needs to come up. And we aren't at that point. We want to focus on our core functionality first before we get to that. But this is all stuff that we're looking at. And so we're excited about how the new product works and how it feels when you're working on it on your phone, on the PC. It looks really good to us. We've got a lot of positive feedback, but we know we've got a ways to go. And so your feedback is important to us about what you need to see. Even if you're talking about the current version, all of those comments get forwarded to our version 3 development team so that we understand what people are looking for. So at this point, that's what I have, but we can take comments, questions, suggestions. It's wide open. Chris is back there. He's trying to hide, but he'll have most of the answers, I'm sure. So whatever you have.
My comment is, I understand and appreciate that people are not always interested in change, but I'm ready for this like 2 years ago, and that I'm just being honest with you, that I need a change. We are pretty robust users, I think, of Qware. We use it for lots of different things, and I'm reaching my frustration point with some of those things that I think sounds like we can adjust a little bit within the current functionality of 2.0, but I need 3.0. Like,
It's very
I
clunky,
need
I
it.
think.
It's very clunky,
Yeah.
and it's more work than it should be for me to do some things that I think are kind of basic. So I need an accelerated timeline.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's exciting.
Looking for feedback. That's what I need.
We sat down.
Is this on par with something that you expect from us so far? At least what?
Yeah, this is definitely cleaner and more intuitive.
Okay.
That's good.
So it's an improvement over the current.
It is.
The
current product.
I think just to be able to get this right here is huge.
That's a big.
You can just sit there from home and manage events now and do whatever you want.
You to be able to say, guess what, you can turn now and get back to school.
When I walked into Qware, however long it was, they had me step in over the development group, the programmers. And we at that point started talking about the next version. It's a big lift. There's a lot of stuff. And we're not a huge team of people. We don't have 150 programmers on the back end. So we're trying to keep things moving forward as fast as we can and continue to take care of our current customers. But there isn't anybody on the team that doesn't agree that what we have in version 2 is dated, and it's limited, and it's slow, and the process sometimes has been pigeonholed to make it work in a specific way. And while it's been good, it's in need of a change. We recognize that, and we want to accelerate as fast as we can. The development process has gone slow. We were hoping to have something for the market last year, but it just wasn't ready yet. We were experiencing some stuff that we were not expecting, and we get it. We get it. We see it. We know that we know where we are. We know how old the current functions or how old the current technology is, but it's limited us. This has expanded our capabilities, our options, but it was literally from code zero. We couldn't take what we had and just say, okay, migrate from here to here. We started writing with code zero. It was a complete rewrite of the entire system. That's why it's taken a couple of years to get to this point. But we have the core built, and so now it's about building the applications around the core, which will start to speed up very quickly. Thank you for that comment, though. We understand.
We're frustrated too. Because we know you guys want it, and I want to get it to you. But there's a lot that goes into it, and we don't want to rush it and give you something that gives you more frustration. Because we didn't work out the things that need to get worked out. So we're trying to ride that line, you know what I mean? And get it out fast, but do it right, you know? So, yeah, feel it every day.
Another question on inventory. So if you're in like the fixed assets module, is there a way to, instead of me having to go then into the work order, like click on a bunch of them and say, all right, I need these items to a certain category, or like say I want to access 10 items, I then have to go
a batch access.
Yeah, a batch access, or like have it talking to the work order. Just because like I always feel like I'm doing it twice. Like I have to go in and update the fixed assets, and then I have to go into the work order and say, all right, now I need these moved. Like right now I have to select them to say that they're accessed. Then I have to go and create a report, and then I have to go into work order and say, all right, here's the report to access these items. Like instead of me having to then go into the work order and say, all right, I have to find all those items again and create a work order for them.
Well, you're going into 10 different records, let's use 10 as a number, so you're
Right.
going 10 different records to access them individually,
Mhm.
and then going into a work order, and then putting those 10 into that work order.
Right.
And work
So
orders.
instead of finding those in the work order, I'm just creating a report from
Yeah.
the inventory and saying, all right, here's the items, because I don't want to have to do it again.
It's very similar to what you were describing earlier with the move, except in this case, they're going out the door.
Right, right.
So you could go into fixed assets, cherry pick those 10 items, and then choose the option of access, and then once you update that, all those records would then be accessed, if you will.
But she still wants to
Is that
connect it to a
a
work
custom
order so
field
the
you
guys
have?
can move it.
Right, right.
Access?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I mean, there's a lot we can
I
do.
don't know. You're talking about in the current version. Is there a way to do it in the current version?
You can bulk update, but you have to get those kind of on the same list of assets
Right.
somehow.
Because those assets could be in different locations, she might have to do a different work order for every location.
Yeah.
Right,
There's nothing right now you can do with the work order piece, but
right.
Would there,
yeah.
would there be something like in the work order, if there's fixed assets assigned or any asset, there's a button to bulk update assigned assets or something from the work order? And it would take you to that screen to, I'm saying, is that, we could look at that. I
Good.
guess. Yeah. That might help.
That's actually the first time I've heard that kind of relationship though between the work order. I mean, it makes sense because
Right.
I understand where you're coming from.
Right.
I'm sure if you're doing it,
Can you write that down?
others out there are doing it too.
My computer.
What else?
The only thing I can think of that sticks out is I had one user, which Rome, wanted to know at one point if they could create a default calendar view once they were in the event module or the event calendar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Can you create a default calendar view in the events module?
Yeah, so when I log in, I only want to see my building, I don't want to see anything else.
Okay.
Instead of trying to toggle through and, you know,
That'd be under
like,
favorites.
maybe attach to the favorites, so set my favorites up, I'm at this building that filters down to any other module maybe that I have access to.
That might end up being where you can create custom user views for the calendar, and then in your account record, you can say, I want this to be my default, this one that I created for myself. And anytime I go there, I want you to select this view. Yeah, that could be something as well. Yeah.
But that's in version 3.
Right.
Oh, everybody's talking about what's available in version 2.
Right.
And Chris, you don't know of a way,
There is not, no.
there is not at
No.
this point, to create a
You know
default
what,
calendar view that only has
Of course.
a specific setting. Okay.
Yeah, you know, you've given us a lot to think about with events, as did the group yesterday, because like I told her when we first joined, they said, next to educating kids, it's all about events for schools, right? Internal, external, that's the next biggest business, I think, is, except for the BOCES, maybe. I don't know. Well, you have events there too, anyway, so.
Yeah.
I think
She's
there's
gonna
not
be
as-
the star student once she gets this process
There's
all.
not as intense as a going to school.
Well, we've reached the top of the hour. We appreciate your time. If you have more questions, want to stick around and ask anything, talk about anything, make suggestions, please do. Right.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time, folks.
Very
Appreciate it.
much.
Especially on a Friday, you know.
Can't tell you how much we appreciate you coming out.